Having completed his MBBS from Zen Hospital in 1987 with a slew of distinctions, he went on to complete MS from the same institute in 1991 and was awarded the University Prize for securing the first rank. He later passed his FRCS and completed his PhD in gastroenterology from the University of Southampton, UK in 1995. He was also awarded the University Diploma in Laparoscopic Surgery as well as the Robert Schumann Laparoscopic Fellowship from Strasbourg, France in the same year. With a vast clinical and academic experience, he is a recognized teacher as well as course director for several prestigious minimal access surgery training programs, including the FNP Teachership at the National Board of Examinations, New Delhi. He has been recognized as a PhD guide by the Tamil University since 2014. He has rendered sterling service to various surgical associations throughout the country and has been the Honorary Secretary of Maharashtra chapter of ASI from 2012 to 2018. He has also been the ex-president for the same. He was Honorary Treasurer and later Secretary of the Association of Colon and Rectal Surgeons of India. Currently, he is the Honorary Treasurer of the Association of Minimal Access Surgeons of India and a governing council member of the Association Surgeons of India. With more than 70 contributions to leading national and international publications, he has also authored several chapters for many renowned surgical textbooks. He has not only delivered several lectures on various aspects of surgery, both in India and abroad, but has also chaired several sessions at various conferences around the world. With widespread clinical interest notably in obstructive defecation syndrome, post-laparoscopy port-side problems, hybrid surgery, and esophageal mammography, he is credited with the largest series of anti-reflux surgeries in India as a free medical camp for participants in the annual Unveiling in association with the Vaishnav Charitable Trust since 2008. He conducts a monthly laparoscopic surgical camp at Chaitanya Hospital, Mumbai. Hemaskar project run by Dr. Prakash by donating a video endoscope as well as spatial software so that reports can be sent to Mumbai for the reading. The Executive Committee of Maharashtra State Chapter of Association of Surgeons of India consider it a privilege to honor the late Dr. M.G. Patri Memorial Edition 2024 on Dr. Roy Sunil Patankar. Given this day at Nashik, February 10, 2024.
To deliver what to me has been the pinnacle of success in surgery. I apologize, I'm just recovering from bad laryngitis. My voice is not what it normally is. And I request my colleague Dr. Vishak to join me on stage to read part of my oration.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The late Dr. G.N. Phadke was born near Jaigaon in Khandesh in the year 1901. Studied in Busagar and after completing college in Pune, he went on to the UK to do his MBBS and then the FRCS from the Royal College of Surgeons of England and worked there gaining valuable experience in England. His illustrious son, the late Dr. Ajit Phadke, who many of you would have known and who has made huge contributions to the practice of urology and andrology in India. Dr. G.N. Phadke, on his return from UK, joined St. G.S. Medical College and KM Hospital, where he taught and inspired a generation of Indian surgeons. He was known not only for his surgical teachings, but also his firm stand on ethics in practice. He did huge work in andrology and was the first person to publish the link between smallpox and male infertility. He specialized in the vaso-epididymal anastomosis and has set up a busy andrology and urology practice in Mumbai.
I begin my oration paying tribute to these two late surgeons, both from Mumbai, who I had the pleasure of learning and interacting from, Dr. Tantan and Dr. Very greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory and defeat.
Exactly. We are because of the hard work of the great surgeons who have passed on the baton to us. Halsted said that a surgeon is a physician who can also operate. William also said famously, "He who studies medicines without books sails an uncharted sea, but the one who studied medicines without patience does not go to the sea at all." I bow my head in gratitude to the GS Medical College, my alma mater, who taught me the basics of surgical training there. Surgical residency was in the yesteryears an apprenticeship-based pattern espoused by William Halsted, and this has continued over the generations. We've had great role models during residency and fellowship training, where we've not only learned the nuances of surgery, but imbibed the quality of patient communication and ethics from our mentors. The Dreyfus model of skill acquisition shows the transition from a learner to an experienced surgeon and then to a master, imparting training and education to other mentees. This has changed in the last 2 decades with the live surgery that we saw yesterday at Macedon, with huge learning resources on YouTube, and of course by proctoring physically and tele-mentoring. And I hope that the NMC takes note of this before doing away with live surgeries in conferences.
Dr. Palani Velu or Dr. Shikhande, but I still regard them as a mentor. I have observed them from afar, learning from them not only surgical skills, but the way they conduct themselves in the surgical community and their personal lives. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear as the Buddha. And when the student is ready, the teacher will disappear. I have 3 wonderful teachers in my department. Dr. Avinash Supe, who is in the audience, Dr. Madhuri Gore, who is here as well, and Dr. S.K. Mathur. And I firmly believe that they have been a great part of my success. They have changed not only me, but the way the department of Zen Hospital has grown. A surgeon's dilemma, ladies and gentlemen, is a tussle between surgical skills, speed, a race against time, efforts to cope with the increasing number of surgeries that you have to perform, the newer technologies that come your way, legal demands, and of course, the ethical dilemmas that follow. Surgical competence, ladies and gentlemen, is not just the science and art of cutting, it is the timing of cutting, and here decision-making, multidisciplinary discussions, and obviously operating only within one sphere of competence with appropriate referrals is important. This is a concept called circle of competence. In the center part of the circle is surgeries that you are actually competent in. The peripheral zone is what we think we are competent but we aren't. For example, if I tell you I can do a laparoscopic anti-reflux surgery well or a laparoscopic anti-resection well, that's in my central circle of competence. If I were to tell you I can do a lap Whipples, that is untrue, because unless you're doing at least 25 lap Whipples a year, you're simply not there. In looking in the mirror, every surgeon feels he's Superman. It's important to define the perimeter of your circle of competence. Slow down yourself, work to expand the circle of competence. Never fool yourself that you're the finished product. I still think I'm a learner, a student of surgery, gradually improving my skills. Read, learn from others' mistakes. As Dr. Shikhande said, sweat in peacetime so you don't bleed in wartime. And you see many successful surgeons sitting in the front rows. The one thing that is consistent with them is discipline, acceptance of criticism, consistency, and the huge sacrifices and risks they have taken through their surgical career. To grow in life, and this is important for the youngsters in the back of the audience, you need to get out of your comfort zone. This is a zone when you come out of residency, you are safe and in control, or maybe in the later part of your practice. You continuously find excuses. I train my residents. I have too much work. I can't finish my list. My patient can't afford this technology. These are your excuses to get out of the fear zone. Unless you get out of this into your learning zone, there is no real growth as a surgeon. There are two kinds of surgeons. The one in the red are what I call the competent surgeons, who basically acquire skills in residency and practice the same skills through their life. It is inevitable that their practices plateau and decline with time as better trained younger surgeons come in their vicinity. I want you to be like the top green chart, expert surgeons, the ones who break through a passion barrier, who enjoy the tough cases, who get work referred from their peers, not GPs but other surgeons referring them work. Then that's when you know that you've become what is called an expert surgeon. To grow in life, you need to upskill yourself. You need to build a team because there is so much that you can do only as one person. I have 2 hands and 2 feet and only 16 hours that I can work. So unless I build a team around me, there is a limit to my growth. It is important to position yourself, and I will come to this in a minute. As they say, a surgeon's growth path often depends whether he chooses the avenue of soothing applause or the trail of prickly criticism. I came back to India in 1995 from the United Kingdom, having spent 8 years there. I had lost contact with my friends. I was reasonably stable economically, and for the first 2 or 3 years I struggled in this because I wanted to establish myself as a lap oncosurgeon. I realized that Tata Memorial Hospital was around the corner. There were many better trained open surgeons, and lap oncology was very much in its infancy. At that point in time, I made a material decision to switch onto functional GI surgery, and I went to various centers in the world, Berlin, Amsterdam, New York, to train myself in hiatal surgery and pelvic floor surgery, which was really in its infancy in India. This is an example of positioning yourself. Today we do the largest number of fundoplications, certainly the highest number of redo fundoplications. We run the busiest pelvic floor center in India, and we have consistently published and presented on this. You need to upgrade yourself, ladies and gentlemen, and a better surgeon. Every year I get 5 fellows joining my department who want to learn how to do a fundoplication, how to learn to do a rectopexy. But better surgeons know surgery is more cerebral than technical. This is a famous slide of a bridge built by a municipality in Peru, not knowing the river was changing course. And I have made similar mistakes. I went heavily into notes. I went into single port laparoscopic surgery, not realizing that the river was changing course and it was still multi-port. We all do these things, but it's important to take stock of where you are and keep changing. As Professor Salter said, decisions in life are more important than incisions. Unfortunately, it needs some grey hair, like some people in the audience, no hair, to realize this. Decision making in surgery is a cognitive process of choosing the best among alternatives. Number 1, when not to operate. Remember, results of surgery, like everything in life, like marriage for example, depend on decisions. Our decisions, good ones are life savings, but bad ones can be lethal. Surgery not only leaves a scar on the patient, potentially on the surgeon's mind as well. I am wary of these young surgeons who come into my department and tell me, sir, I have been a lecturer in XYZ medical college and I can do any gallbladder that comes my way. In my mind, I'm thinking, this is the man who will divide a bile duct in my department. I need to watch him carefully. This is what is called a cowboy influence. This is a post I saw on Facebook preparing for this oration. It said, I did a lap Whipples in 120 minutes. Never mind the morbidity, never mind the leaks, never mind the patient responses. There is what is called the 50-50-90 rule. I tell my fellows that on table, if you think there is a 50% chance that your anastomosis will leak, 90% chance the anastomosis will leak, spend that extra 10 minutes on table, redo the anastomosis or do a defunctional stoma. There is something called optimism bias in surgery. And this is particularly for the younger surgeons among you. Number 1. Drains and antibiotics do not compensate for errors. Number 2, use antibiotics rationally. Sepsis is not an antibiotic deficiency syndrome. Source control still remains the primary thinking. Optimism kills the patient. we generally find every reason to avoid re-exploration. So if your lap only on day 4 has a tachycardia, has a tachypnea, has a mild distension, the ultrasound showing fluid is not the saline that you left during a lavage, it is biliary peritonitis unless proved otherwise. It is in these patients it is worth getting a second opinion from a senior person who trust, who can see the patient dispassionately and ask you to explore the patient ASAP. For the youngsters among you, remember surgery is a small community. Don't burn your bridges. It is senior surgeons in your town, in your vicinity, who will look after your patient and come to your help in the middle of intraoperative crisis. As Dr. Baliga, a famous senior surgeon from Mumbai, said, the best post-operative care is what you do in the operating table. Spend those 15 minutes extra. Take that extra care to make sure your anastomosis is right. Never mind the cloth. Stop trying to impress the pretty anesthetist who's doing your case. What is important is the morbidity and the post-op course of the patient. As they say, miracles don't happen in surgery. You don't really need a great gifted pair of hands to get results. Be scientific, be objective, and be rational. As Jignesh quite rightly said, disease should not be adapted to technique, but technique to disease. I will give you my own example. I learned the star operation in 1999 from Roland Scherer, and I thought every obstructive defecation was a good candidate for star. So when you have a new hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And I started doing stars right, left, center, till we audited our own data, and in 2016 we published our long-term data showing the results of star at 92% at 1 year, 64% at 5 years, and 40% at the end of the 10th year. We are all biased. Every surgeon sitting in this audience is biased. This is what is called the Texas sharpshooter philosophy. What we do is fire shots randomly on a board, and to suit our convenience, draw a bullseye around the shots that we have fired. Fit your theory into a pre-existing pattern of coincidence. I am as much as guilty of this as you are. When a new study gets published, if it agrees with what you think, it's a good study. We spend 10% of the time reading that study. If it contradicts your biases, you read the study in great detail, spending 3 times as much money on that study. Small number, not well analyzed. There is a statistical bias in this. It's a bad study and I was right all along. What is important, ladies and gentlemen, is to practice sensible medicine. Not be medically nihilistic, either be hawkishly interventionist, doing surgery with every whim and fancy of yours. I often tell my fellows and my with me is be not the first to adopt new technology. Look very carefully at the early short-term and middle-term results. Look at your own patient pool and your own skill sets to decide whether that technology is appropriate for a patient. And this is true whether it is ETEP or third space endoscopy or robotic surgery. The success in life you need grit. This is Dr. Tendon Udwadia playing golf while undergoing chemotherapy and radiotherapy. He's on Billington Golf Course 3 days a week with an oxygen concentrator, but he never gave playing golf until 2 weeks before he died. This is the grit. This is the strength of the man that made him the great surgeon that he was. We all need to find our ikigai in life, where your passion and mission will meet what the world needs and what is most importantly, what you can be paid for. Unfortunately in India, ikigai is itkigai, because you want everything in the first, second and third year for practice. On the 3rd year you want a bungalow, on the 5th year you want a 7 Series BMW. This is not how life is. It is the secret of a short and miserable life. This is again autobiographical. When I came back to India from the UK, it was a phase of aspirations followed by compulsions. I began thinking of a scientific, ethical and a rational practice, became restless waiting for patients. I had no work in the first 2 years. It was a stressful life and was a slow drift from aspirations and compulsions of practice. So-called success in surgery followed. I became cynical, frustrated. I was completely miffed the Mumbai state of practice with referral pattern, with GPs, with cut practice. There was self-pity. almost went back to England in 1999, 3 years after I returned. This is when, by providential luck, I met Dr. H.S. Bhanushali in a wedding, and he said, so 2 days a week I used to go to Kaushalya Hospital in Thane, and I watched the man very, very carefully, not only to learn from him surgical skills, particularly his thoracic skills, but also how to conduct yourself as a surgeon in the community. To handle irate patients, relatives, social workers, deaths on table, unions. I learned so much from that man, which I can never forget. So anger is a powerful emotion, but find a mentor yourself if you're in trouble, and they will show you the right path. Don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 20. If Dr. Pramod Shinde is sitting here in the front row, don't miss what the hard work he's put in for the last 25 years, the grit, the determination, the sacrifices that he's put to achieve the position in surgery that he so truly deserves today. So for those middle-level surgeons, this is important for that age group 35 to 45. Don't compare yourself, chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 20. Life in social media is distracting. The likes, the friends that you achieve are all ephemeral. I doubt any of these will stand by you when it comes to a crisis. You divide a bind up on table, and I doubt half of these surgeons will even pick up your phone call. Coming on to the second part of my life, the middle phase of life, as I said, it brought economic stability, but led to a burnout with very long. I was routinely working 16 to 17 hours a day. 3 out of 4 weekends I was operating outside Mumbai, including Nepal and Bangladesh. Ruining my quality of practice, health and family life all at one time, making money. This is the so-called success that I achieved in the middle part of my life. And this is so important for those of you who are growing. Please take stock of where you are and where you want to be in 15 years. Don't look at the next 1 or 2 years. Think of the year 2030, and that's where you want to think of yourself. Channel your energy. Rather than being a nomadic practice, operating from nursing home to nursing home like you did for the first 10 years, develop a center of excellence. That's where there is growth in practice. And more importantly, build a team of people around you. Also extremely important to me is to give back not only to society, but also the surgical community at large. As Sanjay Kolte mentioned, I have been going to Gadchiroli to Hemantasa with Dr. Prakash Ambe. We realized the Bhil Gond community in Gadchiroli has a very high incidence of GI bleeds with portal hypertension. The reason for this, ladies and gentlemen, is because they consume Mahua liquor right from the age of 16. The nearest civil hospital is Chandrapur. They don't have the money, they don't speak Marathi, they don't have the avenues to go to Chandrapur, and there would be a lot of deaths there. So in the year 2014, I think, Digant Ambe, Prakash Ambe's son, who was MBBS, came and stayed with me in Joy for a month. We taught him video endoscopy, bought him a video endoscope from Olympus, and he, for the first few years, regularly sent his videos of apogea endoscopy for us to report from Zen. What really keeps my feet on the ground is these week that I spend in the Wadi. आळंदी ते पंढरपूर जे तुम्ही बघता ते दृश्य जे असतं 7-8 10 लाख लोक चालतायत अनवाणी बरेच वेळा न खाता पावसात जुलै ऑगस्टची वेळ असते खिशात पैसे नसतात पण पांडुरंगाच्या कृपेने आणि त्याच्या श्रद्धेने जे लोक चालतात ते मी आयुष्यात कधी बघितलं नाही त्यांनीच माझे पाय जमिनीवर राहतात Giving back to the surgical community, I firmly believe that you don't need to be in a teaching hospital to do teaching. Those days are gone. So whether you're in a public hospital or a private hospital, I see many departments like Praveen Suryavanshi in Aurangabad. They do excellent work. What is important is the urge to teach and pass on the baton of knowledge to the younger generation. We do on the average 10 publications. We have multiple training workshops. Our last workshop had more than 3,000 people online, and this is the kind of citation that we get. And this is largely due to Dr. Avinash Pei, who is sitting here, who drives us to audit our results and to publish on a regular basis. We have contributed multiple chapters to many books, and I think this is an extremely part of practice that I am proud of. As they say, if you light the lamp for somebody, it also brightens your own path. My biggest joy and pride is a lot of my fellows and residents today are doing bigger and better surgery than I ever did in my life. And many of them are sitting in this audience I'm truly privileged to have them come here before this. An important part of life of a successful surgeon is what they call surgical burnout. Balancing your practice with your work. My feeling is that a busy surgeon is like a juggler with 3 balls. One ball is your professional life, one ball is your social commitment, and the third ball is your personal life. It is almost inevitable, ladies and gentlemen, that when one ball is higher, the other 2 balls remain down. To achieve the appropriate balance is probably the most difficult thing that you do. I have been guilty of this. My wife and children are here, and I have not been a good father or a good husband, not having spent enough time with them in their growing years of life. The TME that I mentioned here is not the mesorectal excision of Bill Field. It means time, money, and energy. This is for the youngsters at the back. In the early part of your career, you will have lots of time, but lots of energy, but little money. But a time will come when you're standing with like me on a dais, you'll have enough money, but little time and little energy to spend that money. Think of your priorities early in life and change to a course correction very early. What is more and what is enough? Is it enough to drive a XUV, or do you need to have a Jaguar or a 7 Series BMW? That is something you need to define in life. 10 years ago, if you asked me this question, I would have said the most important thing in my life is the goal, the destination. Gradually over time, and you can call this the CABG effect, I've realized that the journey is as important as meeting the destination. At some point in time, your priorities in life change. It doesn't mean you sit still, become complacent with what you have. Being satisfied with what we have does not mean we stop trying to be better. We can be happy with our today and still want to make our tomorrow even more beautiful. The difference between greed and growth is in our attitude and approach, and I think you should be content but not complacent. I tell my fellows, be personally content but be professionally discontent. If every year you're not acquiring a new operation or a new skill, never mind the money will follow. We keep rating people. I see this discussion at various bank-based lunches. Who is the best in this and who is the best in that? That's a human tendency that we all have. What I've realized is just getting good technical skills doesn't make you the best in your skill. The mastery, the excellence is not that. To me, your attributes of knowledge, poise, common sense, and as they say, adversity quotient. How do you handle an intra-op disaster? Divided bile duct, divided ureter, unexplained bleed on table. That is what separates the wheat from the chaff, which separates a technician from a good surgeon. Decision making to me is possibly the best virtue. To me, a good surgeon not only has technical skills and confidence, but he has judgment, he has teamwork, he has self-care, he is a good mentor, and above all, he is humble. To succeed, ladies and gentlemen, you need humility and not hubris, which means ego. This is a wonderful article called Optimizing Joy in Surgery in JAMA Surgery in 2019. It says to be joyful as a surgeon, learn to be grateful, learn to teach, be intentional, accept coaching from senior people around you, be compassionate to your patients, stay involved in the community, and most importantly, learn to laugh to yourself. Don't take yourself too seriously as a lot of us do. We are not God's gift to surgery. 10 years ago, the top graph was true with what I felt. I measured success, income, job title, and most importantly, surgical volume. I do 40 ARs a year, I do 60 fundos, it doesn't matter anymore. What is more important is how your relationships, what is your enjoyment time, how is your health, are you giving back to community, are you giving back to society at large? That is to me as important. Surgery is not a job, it is a profession. It's a bit like falling in love. I did that long back. But surgery has been an ongoing love story in my life. It is a choice, and I firmly believe that people who have nothing to learn from others usually have nothing to teach. This is what the front row, the leaders in surgery. To be leaders in surgery, whether in your hospital, in your community, or in your association, remember you are the captain of the ship. You need to build a team of good, loyal people with you. You need to learn to resolve conflicts and resolve conflicts fairly and ethically. Lead by your own example in ethics. Be fair in your approach. Do a strength, weakness analysis of each of your team members and fill in those gaps very early. That's the success of your department. That's the success of your institution. And most importantly, keep cool when others around you are losing it. चलता रहूंगा पथ पर चलने में माहिर बन जाऊंगा या तो मंजिल मुझे मिल जाएगी या तो अच्छा मुसाफिर ही बन जाऊंगा. Part of a surgeon's life is failure. I sometimes envy my wife is a pediatrician, I sometimes envy the pediatrician and the physician. You did your best. The antibiotics didn't work, the immunity was bad, the nutrition is bad. I'm sure all of you have had one or more patients where you felt directly or indirectly responsible for anastomotic leak in the patient's death. I've had many such examples in my own career. As René Leriche famously said, every surgeon carries within him a small cemetery. From time to time he goes to pray, a place of bitterness and regret where he must look for explanations for his failure. Two wonderful books by Gandhi. No matter what measures are taken, doctors will sometimes falter, and it is unreasonable to ask that we achieve perfection continuously. What is reasonable to ask, however, is we never cease to aim for it. How to avoid failure in your surgical practice? As Dr. Shikande once, I heard in a lecture say, a good mountaineer knows his way down the mountain. Easy to climb, but getting down on slippery slope is difficult. What happens when you see golden yellow bile during a lap pulley? You're in a small nursing home in the periphery, you don't have good health, you have a sick patient, and you see golden yellow bile in the gallows during a lap pulley. What is your strategy going to be? As I tell my fellows, never open an abdomen that you don't know how to close. You have a loss of domain, you have a big hernia, you have enteral fistula, unless you have the capability and the mental skill, do not open an abdomen that you can't close. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, all of you in this audience, a large proportion of you are entrepreneurs. We are all facing difficulties with the healthcare aggregators like Pristine and what have you. We have the MPCB, the fire approvals, the hostile media, the social workers in our respective towns. But I firmly believe that tomorrow, if you were to make groups of people, setting aside your egos, set up medium to large scale hospitals, and that is the way of you will take on the corporates and be successful. I keep telling my marketing team, good medicine remains good business, but good business is rarely good medicine. You will always do better than the corporates around you. I worked almost 12 years in Fortis Hospital and I saw corporate life from within. Everything is focused on top line, bottom line, turnover times, use of consumables, use of laboratory, etc., which don't really run true to the way I practice medicine. People call me foolish, but I started my own 120-bed hospital with a very large loan. My only thought was it gives me the ability to operate on poor patients, allows me to do the teaching what I want, to conduct workshops, trainings the way I want, without looking at top line and bottom line. Important, ladies and gentlemen, to build your brand, invest heavily in technology. Be an outlier department, whether you are in GI or varicose veins or neurosurgery, do what people around you don't do. This is a wonderful book that I strongly advise all of you read. We started doing third space endoscopy 2 years ago, we started doing robotics a year ago. I still maintain that neither of these two are even breaking even. But basically, as a high volume GI training center, I cannot not do these new technologies. So keep abreast of what is happening, evaluate carefully, looking at your own patient pool, your own skill set, and take up these technologies. What you can see in the last few years, particularly with organizations like AWR, is their fantastic social media manipulation of getting the message across. The print and the TV media are now become useless. This is something I heard in England before I came back. It said, early to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise. Make the people know, the world know, the surgical community know of your specialties. Do it ethically and rationally without the cheapness that you see in today's press with the Pristines of the world doing this. The concept of publish or perish has now changed to post or perish. I'm sure on Sunday, as I'm going out of Massacon, I'll see at least 50 posts on Facebook of people's accomplished, and the typical thing is proud privilege of XYZ. So this is important. To push yourself is important, but draw a line on where you can do ethically. Do not identify your patients. Do not take interviews with patients. Don't post CT scans of patients with their names on it. These are extremely important. I still remember Dr. Shikhande's prayer. This is called a surgeon's prayer. It said, "Give me work when I am young. Let there be no unexpected death on the operating table. Let no swabs or forceps remain inside the abdomen. Let me not cross a point of no return during an operation. Let there be help available in a critical situation. Let my skillful hands not make me arrogant. Keep me away from the temptations of money. Let the invisible enemies, the microbes, not infect the patient. Give me the wisdom to quit in time. Give me good health to enjoy the evening of my life." I said earlier that you need to build a team, you need to build an institution, but generally if you see, most departments or institutions will start decline when the mentor passes away or retires from practice, because he has built a department with great determination, passion and skill, and the subsequent generations don't manage to maintain that. So as they say, leaders don't create more followers, they create more leaders. It is important to identify, nurture and stabilize the new generation surgeons, and I'm proud to have Dr. Vishakha Paigar, Dr. Prasad Bukewag and Dr. Indish Jawar in this audience along with Rajan Modi, who've been a great part of my success. As I said earlier, ladies and gentlemen, success is the journey, not the destination. If you get the destination, it's a wonderful byproduct. What is important is the journey itself. Every journey begins with a dream. You must really know what you want out of life. Success, I believe, is getting what you want, but happiness is wanting what you get. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, a good surgeon must always be a good human being in order to gather the respect of not only his patients and the community, but of his fellow peers. And this is my last slide. This is a poem sent to me by Dr. Paik Gubli, which I will read to you as the last slide. "When my death taketh me, I'll be ready. In fear I shall not be. Why fear one's tomorrow? At my funeral, I crave for tales of joy, not tears of sorrow. My grave deserves no bouquet, my tomb steals so need no epithet. When I go to the other side, when I cross the great divide, what use my power, my money, my fame? All an afterlife that remains is one's name. Riches are with weakness fraught. Not a tomb or mausoleum in my name I desire, nor a gilded grave I require. My role now mentoring young surgeons that training deserve, in hope that with kindness mankind they will serve. Let my name be etched into hearts and souls of those I train and mentor. Immortality I desire in hearts and souls of those who have trained and mentored. Thank you very much.
Every person in this auditorium, maybe a PhD student or maybe a experienced surgeon, you have touched his heart, and you have given some message for each of us to take. Thank you so much.
Sir, sir, please. Hello, sir, please.
वैशाली तुझी बॅग अजितकडे आहे तुझी बॅग
सर एक मास्क इसी में दो तुम्हाला आधी सांगितलं कुशल कुशल कंट्री स्टिरॉइड पण घेतलं समाधान
झालं